probably made way too many pre-frozen dinners being a newly wed mother, because we all seem to do that, or wife, I should say. My husband on the other side would be that perfect husband. He'd be the perfect provider and the protector of the family, and he'd be the strong, fearless leader that would take us and conquer all the dragons that are out there. And we would grow with holiness and in love. And doesn't that sound good? Yeah, it sounds great. I mean, that was the picture. So now I was a mother, and motherhood and fatherhood started opening up our world. And of course I was concerned of the proper formation of these children that the Lord was giving us. And so I started to embark on a deeper journey in our faith. Somehow I thought, if I would just open up the Bible that was a little dusty on our table, and I would put it on the coffee table and put a little candle or sacramentals on there, somehow that would exude out and I would kind of absorb holiness somehow. And I thought it looked really good, and I felt really holy doing it, so I thought, well, okay, this will work, but holy osmosis doesn't work really well. And surprisingly, I thought, I actually took down a fish aquarium and put the Bible there, and as I was writing this talk, I thought, hey, that's kind of interesting. I removed a fish and put the Word of God there. So anyway, I did get involved in helping children's liturgy in Devon, and I was helping out with a magazine, a quarterly magazine that went out, and I just wanted to get involved with the church a lot more. And there was a point, our marriage at this point was already starting to take a slip. I mean, I wanted this perfect thing, and it didn't seem like George was pulling the weight, and it just already started to slide. So there was a point where there were these two young moms who invited me to bring the kids to Enoch Church and pray the rosary on Wednesday mornings, and I just grabbed the opportunity. I thought, hey, this would be great, a couple young moms. There was a point there that I started to share those normal little quirks that marriages go through, just for, you know, getting some consoling women to help you out on this. And I was sharing with them that I desired George to be more of the spiritual leader in the family, and I couldn't understand why he was around very much, and why he wouldn't want to pray, and, you know, all of this stuff. And so there were all kinds of issues that were cropping up. I mean, there were financial issues that we were facing, and I could just go on and on and on about, but I really felt myself sliding into a depression again. He never wants to talk. He's always never home, but he wants me to love him, and oh my gosh. And so these women, being women, they want to console me. And so one of the girls comes to me, and she suggests that, she says, well, do you want us to pray over you? And I thought, what does that mean? That do you pray over me? I was thinking to myself, well, do they kneel on me? Or do they sit on me? Or what the heck? Because I mean, I had no idea. I was just stupid. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so the next thing I know, I'm sitting on a park bench in Devon Botanical Gardens, and these women are praying over me, and I'm just like, okay, whatever works for you. And so they're praying over me, and I hear this like thing, this awkward language, and I'm thinking, okay, it sounds like her tongue is like twisted up in her mouth, and what the heck is she saying? And I don't know, maybe she's got this great ancient language of Swahili and uncle or something that she knows, or it was just really bizarre and creepy, but I just went with it, and it was like, okay. And basically that was it. They prayed over me, and life just went on. Now this one woman who prayed over me, I actually was introduced to her years after that, because I was never prayed over again for years and years and years after that. So during all this time, I hoped for my knight to come through, and he wasn't. And so I started trying all the tricks in the book that every woman does. I pleaded with him. I prayed, Lord, please, my will be done. Please, my will be done. I gave him silent treatments. I had books and resources and tapes and everything scattered around the house that so maybe he'd pick it up and read it. I used manipulation techniques. I was angry. I cried. Anything to get him to go. You name it, I did it. And there was always a tension about religion, which I couldn't understand. Wasn't this his God-given rule to fulfill? What was the problem? Why would he get so angry when we talk about religion or if I had to pray? Why was this making him so furious? Why was he so bitter and defensive? I just didn't understand. Now, I knew all of these games that I was playing was not a desire to control him at all, not in the least. What it was is a yearning for God to fulfill his role in our marriage. I didn't realize the fundamental truth of that at that time. I do now, though. You notice that I was working insanely hard to get my husband aboard the ship that I wanted him to row. I wasn't relying on God at all. Oh yeah, I had a relationship as I thought I knew him, but I was relying on myself. I prayed to God for what I wanted at my time. Why wasn't God doing something about this? Didn't he want him to be the spiritual leader? Anyway, tensions were getting worse and worse, and this great chasm in our marriage was developing. And it etched a real sore spot in our lives. Finally, the time came when I was utterly spent. I could not take it anymore. I'd come to my last-ditch effort of complaining to God because he wasn't working anyway. And in desperation, I remember one night, because the kids were in bed and George was gone yet on another trip, and I was at home alone, and I had it. I had totally had it. And I finally just fell to my knees in the kitchen floor, and I threw up my hands up in the air, and I just said, God, I have had it. He is yours. And I was finished. That was it. That was it. I was done. I was done. My heart was dead. Anything inside of a woman's heart that is nourishing and loving and caring was dead, and I was as cold as ice. Now, at this point, it happened that I was going to Toronto to meet up with George. He was on tour with a dance troupe, and I was going to visit a cousin of mine, and somewhere in the middle we were gonna meet. But as I was preparing my trip to the flight, this very numbing and depressing sensation was inside of me, and it just was weighing me down. Because I was staring at the reality that our marriage truly was over. I had it. And when I got home, I was going to make arrangements so that I could find a place for the kids and myself to live. So I threw some items in my bag, and I decided to throw a book in the bag, and to read on the plane. And I think most of you may have heard of the title. It was called Bridges to Madison County.